order the regular meeting of the Frankfort Plant Board for Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 5 o'clock in the community room at the FPB Administration Building. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Member DeLong?
Here.
Member Cuban?
Here.
Member Snyder?
Here.
Member Mason?
Here.
Member Dutton Mitchell? Here.
We have a quorum. First item is item 1.1, consider approval of the minutes of the December 17th, 2024 board meeting. Everybody should have those in front of them. Does anybody have any changes or corrections? If not, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are adopted. Item 2, financials. Consider accepting financials for the month ending December 31st, 2024. Mr. Denton.
Thank you, Mr. Cuban. Board, good evening. What you have before you tonight are financials through the first 6 months of this fiscal year 2025. So each year we begin July 1, end on June 30th. Usually I present in a pretty standard way to you, starting with the net position and go to financial performance. But I'd like to kind of do a little different format tonight, kind of reverse that a little bit and walk through the reasoning, kind of laying out how the company functions on a day-to-day basis and how to get back to how we charge rates and cash reserves and things of that nature. So I'd like to start, if you on page 20, this is this company-wide statement of revenues, expenses, and change in net position. So one of the things, you hear me bring it up quite often, especially during budget time, we talk about this thing called revenue requirements. You know, we offer essential utility services. These are essential for a reason. They're needed 24/7, at least that's our expectation and our goal. So what revenue is necessary to keep this company moving forward in day-to-day operations, investing in critical infrastructure, servicing debt, and keeping reserves? What is that number of revenue you need, and how do you generate that in rates for your services? So when we look at revenue requirements, it's the four pieces I just mentioned. It's the operating and maintenance expenses we must cover day to day. When you think about it, we resell everything that we sell to customers except for water, which we pump, treat, and resell. We must cover those operating expenses day to day to operate. The other thing is investment in critical infrastructure. That's the second piece of revenue requirements. We are heavily invested and have to be in critical infrastructure to provide the services. The third piece is service on long-term debt. There are times we need to go out and have large investment in infrastructure that requires long-term debt. We don't have enough cash to do it on our own. And then the fourth piece is having enough cash available to have a surplus or a cash reserve for creditworthiness and financial stability. So those are the four pieces. First of all, so we're going to walk through those four and really the flow of the financial statements. So looking at this, some call the income statement. We're calling it as a nonprofit municipal, the revenue expense and change in net position. So if you look at this, starting on line 20, operating revenue. So this is the revenue we receive from the sale of essential services. You can see that's just over $54 million. That is up 2% year over year, primarily led by increased usage in electric and water. Then we have our operating expenses that we take out of that. Total operating line 50 of just under $36 million. Then you have your general and administrative expenses on line 260 of right at $13 million. And then we have at the bottom what we consider other revenue. These are revenues that are other than the essential services we provide, miscellaneous types of revenue that we classify at the bottom. You can see line 315 at just over 2.7. So when you take your operating revenue minus your expenses, operating and maintenance expenses, plus your other revenue, you get to what we call change in net position, or a for-profit company would call net income, or IOU would call net income. And you see that's $8.3 million. There were we talked about four pieces. So we got to the bottom. We've covered operating and maintenance, that one we need to do day to day, but there's three other pieces that we have. So that $8.3 million is left for those other three. So the next one we talk about, number 2, infrastructure investment. That is where we go back over, if you want to let's see, here's page 15. So infrastructure investment on our statement of net position. This is, you look at on line 45, property, plant, and equipment, net of accumulated depreciation. You can see that's at $153 million. That's net book value, so that's your purchase price less accumulated depreciation. So it's something worth noting. We have net revenue, operating, our revenue minus expenses of 8.3. And it's worth noting that we've invested $8.5 million back into property, plant, and equipment. So we essentially took everything on that bottom line and have reinvested it back in the company to make sure we have the infrastructure necessary to provide the services we need. Looking here at line 75, you can see total assets of $243 million. And then we look at the next section, liabilities, line 155, total liabilities of just under $102 million. So the third piece we talked about, we've got operating maintenance expense, investment in capital and infrastructure, and then principal service on long-term debt. That's under that liability section. When you look at 8.3 million net revenue minus the 8.5 that we spent, plus you have to go in, looking at correlating this all back to the financials. On page 17, you can see the actual principal payments on debt service of $375,000. Those are now covered the first three pieces of the revenue requirements. So if you've done the math, we actually have gone negative in cash, which oddly enough, if you look over back at our net position, lines 5 and 10, cash and investments, we're actually down $300,000 year over year. The fourth piece we talked about is sufficient reserves. So it is a good practice that in the event of emergencies, natural weather events, and any other kind of modern disasters you can imagine, that we have enough cash to get through them. Also, creditworthiness. You need to have enough cash to be able to cover your bills in the event of an emergency. And also when you need to go out and buy and borrow. We just had to go out and invest in our internet infrastructure, that you're able to get the best rate in the market. So you can see there on line 5 and 10, we have just under $26.5 million. That's somewhere around 85 days cash on hand, and that is close to our goal of 90 days. So I just want to give you a little different way of looking at this, or at least a different way for those that actually take the time to tune in, of looking at it a different way. When we talk about revenue requirements, and then relating that back to how it actually looks on the financial statements. But otherwise, revenue is up over year. We're down about 2% in expenses, so that puts us in a decent spot for halfway through the year. We do have a lot of projects still in the works, but that's pretty much where we are through the first 6 months.
John, Steve, Catherine, Jason, any questions for? So looking at it right now, David, from where you see it right now at 6 months, and kind of where we are with everything, do you see that where we are right now pretty much holding true for the next 6 months in terms of revenue, expenses, and kind of where our net position is? Do you see anything on the horizon that changes that? I
don't. You know, we do I give everybody a pat on the back. I believe we do a very good job of budgeting. We are conservative. We don't ever want to get on the wrong side of the numbers. But you do see a tightening. Wholesale power increases significantly in the wintertime because we are a winter peaker. We were going through 0-degree weather, and that really, people use the power, and we have to purchase the power. Right. So you start to see margins start to get a little tighter towards the end of the year. But I do think we'll do better than expected. Usage is up in both electric and water, and we have done a good job of containing costs. So that's a very important side of it. We've got plenty of capital projects, so I hope we do better than expected because we need the cash.
Well, and I think, and you don't want to ever pat yourself on the back because anything can go wrong at any time and will. But I think we've really been fortunate with things we're doing, that like what we've gone through the last 2 or 3 weeks, that we're able to provide the power for our customers when they need it. And I know Gary, Travis, or Scott's going to talk more about it later, but through what we've gone through, but to have the power there, some other utilities were talking several weeks ago about having rolling brownouts, but to have the power there for our customers that they can rely on, I mean, I think is huge for this community. And they've come to depend on that, and I think we all kind of take it for granted that we flip the switch, everything comes on, we turn the faucet, everything's running, and it's just like, well, that's just the way it always is. That's not always the way it is with a lot of utilities. I mean, and we are fortunate. We really are.
Yes, sir.
And I know what everybody went through that Saturday before the big ice storm and all the time that went in that weekend to preparing, and everybody was there. I mean, it was huge. I mean, we got through it. But that was a major ice storm. I mean, and we were fortunate that we didn't lose more lines, but our staff put in a lot of time getting ready for that, so, and everybody did, from the, not just the linemen, but from the warehouse people, the people getting the trucks ready, putting the chains on. I mean, it was huge, so,
It's a good feeling to know that something does happen, that we have planned sufficiently
yeah.
that we can get through it, so.
So, anyway, we don't have any questions. Do we have a motion on the financials?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Financials are adopted. Next item, item 3.1. Consider approving renewal of FPB's insurance policies in the amount of $1,466,245.31. Hance?
Yes, sir, thank you, thank you. This time of year, our coverage is renewed, everything except workers' comp comes up this time each year. And the renewal this time around, depending on the base that you choose from, was 3.29 to about 3.79% more, which is about 1% greater than the CPI that just came in. So the insurance runs roughly with inflation, so it's about the same this year. There were two drivers mainly that the pollution coverage renewed this year, which is a 3-year term. That's puts $38,000 into it. And then the other big increase was the excess alarm coverage for security, and that was about 4 times more. So I guess the markets have shifted there. The other noteworthy item was our earthquake coverage. The company decided they didn't want to write $200 million. They're only going to offer $100 million. So my suggestion for the board's consideration would be to go ahead and bind the coverages that we have at 100, and then let Charlie Hamilton and Stanley Marshnick kind of shop around for the other $100 million, if that's what the board so chooses.
Because our assets, David, in order to, and of course, actually get in and start replacing everything in the ground and pipes and everything, is, who knows what that figure is. But I mean, just roughly on assets, what do we need coverage on?
Well, we've got net book value of $153 million. I actually have a detail that shows, what's the true historical purchase price. Now, that's much higher.
Sure.
But you have to assume if we go at replacement cost or fair value, it is substantially higher, and I think you go above the $200 million.
Because I mean, we've got facilities, the reservoir, the water treatment, the tanks. I mean,
Of course, that would be a total loss, which I
Yeah.
hope would never be a possibility.
right, but I mean, we've got some major assets
Yes, sir.
for coverage.
Right.
And it's always good to
liability.
say it never happens till it happens. And you look what's happening in LA and everything, and all of a sudden you're looking at cost
Right.
just beyond anybody's imagination. I mean,
Yeah, we're always glad to see April come.
yeah.
So the most recent quote, I know they were still getting data in here, was $1,399,528. It's slightly lower than what was in the board package, but I'd recommend that the board can consider. I'd renew it and then shop around for the other 100 for the earthquake. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for questions. And Charlie Hamilton and Stanley Marshnick are here to address questions as well. So
Okay, you want to bring Charlie and him up? And
yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Hence, this does not, the one thing this does not include is workers' comp, right?
Correct.
That we renew that in July is when we renew
Yes,
that?
sir. Yes, sir. That's right.
Is there, or maybe Charlie can answer that, is there a market for that excess earth movement policy? I mean, are people writing that, or?
I'll let Charlie and Stanley talk about.
Charlie, you want to come up to the podium here?
They can tell you about I know there's other companies out there. I'll let them kind of address what they found out on that front.
There's other markets. They're mostly surplus lines because nobody wants to take that standard market.
It's kind of like reinsurance on health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stanley and I, best we'd come up so far was about $100,000 for another $100 million. And the thinking is that we get the best quote we can do, let you know when you decide whether you want $100 million is okay, you want to buy the excess. We've put in, I think maybe Kathy has the board packets, things from the internet from the University of Kentucky, National Geological Surveys, that Franklin County and Frankfurt is in the lowest zone as far as frequency.
Are you seeing,
500 years on, by the way.
in what you're seeing for us, is that going on in the entire market in terms
Yes.
of,
Oh,
in terms of reducing, insurance companies reducing?
thank you.
In terms of insurance companies reducing their coverage or their
Yes.
exposure?
We had one other quote we were getting in from a standard market, and they only provide 25 million. So we got 100 million, but I think, and I agree with Hans, I think the best thing would be to proceed what we got. We got plenty of time to get other quotes on the earthquake and see if we can get something better than the 100,000 for 100 million, X of 100 million.
And that quote would be for the second 100 million,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So it
sir.
wouldn't be the primary exposure, but.
No, the primaries with Cincinnati right now would
Okay.
stay with them.
Of course, it's like everything else. You can say it's 1 in 10 year, 1 in 500 year, but when it happens to you, it's that year. I mean,
That's
yeah.
right, that's right. That's
You all
right.
got questions, Jason?
Yeah, it's just a technical question.
Sure.
So if you have two policies each for 100 million, and we have 200 million assets, do you scope out which is in each policy so that if something happens, they're not like, oh, they were supposed to cover that?
Well, we be building excess on top, and it's like umbrellas or liability.
Once you
So
work
Cincinnati is the
through
first
100
primary 100 million, we're building another 100 million on top of that. So it would not be touched unless it went past 100 million.
Is that why you think you can get that lower, maybe potentially lower rate as they're kind of?
We're trying. I mean, everybody's avoiding it like the plague.
I mean, the insurance companies don't want to write it, or?
No,
Well, that probably does help if they're not looking at being primary.
yeah, that should help, yes. When you have 100 million below you, that should help. But still, the insurance companies are like Mr. Cubine's talking about, they're thinking about the catastrophic, and so at least that's their excuse.
Do you see, I mean, just some of the things I've read, that nationwide homeowners insurance has gone up a lot because of some of the natural disasters along the Atlantic coast, the Gulf Coast,
Right.
and so forth. Do you think what we're looking at this year will continue, or do you think we're going to see a big spike like next year, or do you think that's a lot of that's washing out? Or
I don't think so. I mean, 100,000 for 100 million is.
no, I'm talking about over the overall policies, the 1.4.
I think the market is starting to steady out a little bit, and the increases, like what Hans was mentioning, even though we're got maybe a 3-4% increase over last year, you got a 20% increase in your property limits we're using this year. So that's helping. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not, if you knock that down, it wouldn't be too far off last year.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, as far as next year, I don't know. We feel like there's been enough increases, and you guys have sustained them over the years, that we should be leveling out. But my crystal ball doesn't have an answer.
Yeah. Anybody else have some questions for Charlie, or for the overall policies, or Hans, or where we're going, or?
No, well, since our coverage is ending very soon, so we don't really have a choice but to go on and renew and then shop for the extra.
Yeah. And you, in putting this together, you looked at other companies
Oh,
and
yes.
other options, and
Quite a few.
I know you've always done that in the past, so I mean,
Yes.
this was,
We've done the same thing again this year.
yeah. Okay. Any other questions, or not? Do we have a motion? We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Policies are approved. Charlie, when do you think you might be back on the?
Thank you. I would hope within a week or 10 days.
Oh, really? Okay, so by the next
Before
meeting, we'll have,
Before the February 5 renewal date,
okay,
because we got plenty of time. on it.
okay. Appreciate it. Thanks,
Thank
Charlie.
you.
Thank you,
all
sir.
very much.
Okay. Next is, do we have anybody for public comment, Ms. Poe?
No, sir.
Do we have any web comments or any complaints, or anybody heaping praise on us, or none of the above?
Now, we had a repeat email, with regard to their electric provider, which is not us right now. But I think I forwarded that
Right.
on to you all, so.
And somebody wants to, but that's not, somebody would like to have us as their electric provider as opposed to one of our competitors, but that's not our, that's a PSC call. And we can't just annex other utilities.
We would like to
Was
have,
that my letter?
we would like,
Was that my letter?
we would like to have them as our customer.
That's right. Departmental reports, Mr. General Manager?
Yes, the first is public information.
Hello,
She's ready.
I'm ready.
I saw you got out here. I mean, you were ready to go.
I tell ya. Just like to report that our media services and Cable 10 team have been working hard. They've been busy with, they had 6 nights of Game of the Week basketball in January. They had, they were all double headers. And then they'll have 6 more in February, plus 3 nights of a district tournament. So that'll be 9 nights total in February for basketball that our Cable 10 team will be working. We're through the holidays. Happy New Year, by the way. We're through the holidays, and around 10 we're getting guests scheduled for the new year. We have the mayor coming in as a guest on Friday, and then more to come from other folks from around the community. We love having guests come on and talk about, things that are going on around here. I think there was a question about clubhouse rentals.
Yes, how we doing on it? What kind of interest have we got?
We've had 6 events there since the
Oh, really?
opening. It's been going well. Everybody's gotten their deposit back, so no issues so far. So that is a good thing. I do want to mention that we have the State of the Community event is a week from today, which is we co-sponsor it with the Chamber of Commerce, co-host it, I believe is a better term. That it will be at the Kentucky State University Student Center in the ballroom on the 4th floor.
Same place it normally is.
It's going to be upstairs. It's going to be in the ballroom.
I got lost in the basement last time.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, going out.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think you're the only one. But this is an event that continues to grow, so they moved us to the 4th floor. And that is where we have the president of Kentucky State University. We have the mayor and the county judge and both the school superintendents. And they just, they speak for about 10 minutes each about what's going on here in our community. And
So, Hans, if any of the board wants to go, as long as we don't all sit together, if we show and we want to go and just sit around, that's not a violation of,
That's correct, as long as there's no discussion of public business, you all.
and we should avoid all 5 sitting at a table together, right?
You could take it to that.
Yeah, could do, yeah.
well, if anybody wants to go, let me know, and I'll make sure that I get everybody registered that wants to go. They'll like to have that kind of a head count, so they know how many to plan for. I think this is the 5th year that we've done it. Co-hosted with the Chamber of Commerce, we have the opportunity to tell them a little bit about what we do here at the Frankfurt Plant Board, and it's always a good opportunity to listen to the questions that the people have. There's a Q&A offered at the end, what kind of questions people have about things, and again, great opportunity to hear from our local leadership. So I invite you all to come. That's a week from today, 8:30 in the morning till 10. It's a breakfast. And that's what I have.
Any questions for Kathy?
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next is David, do you go?
Yes, I'll cover the NOC report tonight. We have your regular report you used to seeing on page 161. Goes through our list of calls received and locates. So the NOC is receiving calls coming in for trouble call after hours, and then during hours they're looking for trouble calls. They're also handling basic customer service tasks and those that they need to elevate. They're sitting on to customer service. So you can see here they had close to 2,400 calls that they handled in total, 512 trouble calls entered, and 504 locates. So they're doing well and trying to incorporate as many customer service duties as we can while staying on the mission critical parts of emergency response.
And I know I guess the thing we all saw getting ready for the storm, April and her staff were all on call to assist the NOC people depending on how bad that weekend would have got. So that was good.
Yes, they're able to jump in and assist, get trouble calls entered and assist in any way they can.
Yeah.
So we're leveraging all the tools that you all have helped and approved for us to have to be able to jump in. A lot of cloud-based services so you can jump on from anywhere if you have the right equipment.
Okay. Gary?
Yes, for next is the customer service, April.
See, if I'd known you were coming next, I wouldn't have talked about you. You could have talked about yourself. Yeah.
No, we help the NOC. The NOC helps us out a lot too. Like David said, they're in our call queues a lot during the day, helping with some of the payments, what we call light customer service. And so any chance that we have to offer them assistance, we try to as well. So they were definitely ready to assist. And you asked about comments. I meant to bring, we had somebody draw us a picture and send in and tell us thank you for keeping the electric on during that snowstorm. So I meant to bring it with me. I didn't. It was cute, but we did have a customer that was really happy that they had utilities during
When
that
I saw
time.
that one Facebook comment or whatever that someone had gotten up to take their spouse to UK to work, and the power, and when they were backing out of the drive, their power blew. They said they saw a big blue arc, and when they came back, they said their power was back on, and it said they were going to bring whiskey to all of our people. I don't know what happened there, but said they were.
We didn't get any customer service. I don't know. Maybe they got them at the service center. But no, I saw that as well. They were
Yeah.
pretty happy, and
Yeah.
we had very few outages, so that was good. So you'll find the customer service reports on page 163 to 167. We assisted a little over 8,000 customers last month. There was an increase in our wait time. That's normal when you have multiple days that we had holidays, so people are trying to get in on those other days to make sure that they get their business taken care of. So there was a little bit uptick there. Of course, we also had 2 people who were promoted within the department, and so they're trying to get settled into their roles, and then right now we're in the process of going through some applications to try to hire some new CSRs. And I know, again, the NOC helps us, but they are also a little short-staffed because they've had some movement around as well. So we might have a couple of months where things might be a little higher than normal, but that's to be expected with all the movement.
Have we got a lot of applicants for the customer service spots?
They sent us about 35, I think, is what we ended
Oh,
up
really?
with. Yeah, so we started going through those
Okay.
today,
Well,
and
good.
we'll get with HR to get some interviews up and going. So a few things that I just wanted to talk about, especially with the weather right now the way it is. We have several programs that we don't talk about a whole lot, so I kind of wanted to use this as a time to remind our customers what we offer. So the Power Gift Certificate Program, we had several people use that last month. With the holidays, they put a credit on the customer's account, and then we either send the certificate to the customer or to the person who purchased it. So just kind of wanted to remind customers that that's out there. If you ever have somebody that's hard to find a gift for, to be sure to think about their utility company, because we're happy to take care of that for them. There's a few other programs that we have in conjunction with Bluegrass Community Action. So one of them is the Roundup for Change. We have about 783 customers who participate in that right now. And that gives them the option to round up their bill to the next highest amount, and then FPB matches that dollar to dollar. And that money, again, goes to Bluegrass Community Action to help customers that are low income with their heating assistance program. Also, if you don't want to round up for change, you can donate to Winter Care on your monthly bill or on the portal. Again, it's another option to assist those customers. And then, of course, the home energy audit right now would be probably beneficial for a lot of our customers with the recent weather. So the customers would reach out to Bluegrass Community Action. We've partnered with them to be able to provide some assistance to be able to get them a energy audit, and then excuse me, if they qualify, they may be eligible for upgrades. So just a few things to put out there, especially right now with the temperatures and with people's utility usage going up because of their using the furnace and the extreme temp.
The cycle bill that's getting ready, I guess, to come up later this week or whatever, how bad are the bills going to be?
Oh, I don't know. We've seen a few customers that have already started calling, because customers can obviously go in and see if they've got the AMI meters. They can go see their usage. So we've already had a few that are calling that are pretty concerned about how high their usage is. So
Because, I mean, it's been cold.
it's been cold, and then with the snow, it's not the best time of year for customer service, especially once the bills start going out.
And I guess if customers, what's the process if customers have trouble? They get a bill and they're like, I can't do this. What's their
So we
options?
offer payment arrangements online through our portal, and if they can't, it requires a fourth down, and they have 10 days to pay the remaining balance. If they can't pay within that time frame, then they just need to contact a billing rep, and we can work out other arrangements. But we definitely, especially this time of year, do a lot of payment arrangements. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any questions?
One of the things I might want to mention is when springtime rolls around, if we offer the budget amount as well, so
Correct.
that can help smooth that out a little bit over the years. So
Definitely.
so.
Yep, I'll remind customers when it's time to sign up. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next is telecommunication, Adam.
Good afternoon. Your telecom report starts on page 169 through 172. The first page of the report is your customer numbers for the month of December. Page 1, the next page there is the outages for the month. We had 7 outages. 4 of them related to some wind there at the end of the month. Trouble calls are average for the month. If you see it, the biggest increase is customer education. I think a lot of that has to do with the next band, some of that stuff, and also around Christmas, new devices, things of that nature. Next band construction, we turned on 5 more areas. We have 7 ponds left, so we are down to about 2,000 homes passed and will be completed with the overbuild. So we're wrapping that project up. Mike Harrod, he had a pretty good idea. We're going to slow down that and increase the speed of the grant areas. That way, if we get stopped on the grants, if something goes on there, we have that work to fall back on. So we'll start slowing that down a little bit and focusing more on the grants. On the county bid on that, we have 325 easements signed and we have 299 remaining. So, and we're also waiting on make ready with KU, Bluegrass, and AT&T. So as some of that make ready gets completed, we'll start building in some of those areas. So.
And I know on the weekend, the ice, when we had all the ice and snow, we had some areas that were out for several days.
Yeah.
And there was it was primarily other utilities that we would either use their power, we were on their poles that
Yes,
we had
sir.
to wait for them to get on to get
Yeah,
our
we
people
had,
back on.
at the height of the outage for us, we had 655 out, and most of those were Bluegrass and KU. There was only one small outage for the electric, so. And as far as that storm, at the end of that storm, we had one main line issue out in Bluegrass that got tore down, and we had to replace 16 customer drops, replace or rehang 16 customer drops.
And I know you sent it to the whole board that Sunday and Monday, I know you were sending us out like every couple hours updates
Yeah,
on
just trying
where
to,
everything was at.
When
So
we're gonna wrap up, and hopefully, if you need to see something different, I'll try to add that to the reports. So,
I appreciate it though, it was good.
any questions? Thank you.
Next is electric department, Scott and Travis.
Good evening. The electric report will start on page 173 and go to 176. Page 173 has our SAIDI numbers for the month at 39.255. Page 174, once again, is your typical pie chart, which shows the percentages of the type of outages we did sustain. Page 175 takes those outages and breaks them down to the actual cause of the outage, and we had a total of 18 outages for the month. Page 176 has your top 10 listed, and we had a total of 2,235 outages for the month of December. I'd be happy to answer your questions.
You want to talk a little bit about what you and your staff did that weekend and everything to be ready and what all you did?
Oh yeah, sure. December the 6th was the ice storm, or December that weekend before. So we started actually getting prepared the Friday before. We typically on stuff like that, we 3 or 4 days out, we'll start making plans, and of course on Saturday the support services come in and started putting chains on the trucks. We already had other people lined up for emergency things. We had our tree trimmer crews come in Saturday night, so that way if roads were bad, they were already here. We put additional people on call Saturday night to roll into Sunday. We already had a plan for Sunday based upon how the snow came in and the different waves of weather. We were going to start staggering people in or staging people in at different times. But as everybody said, knock on wood, luckily we dodged a bullet. It did not. It was bad, but it was not bad for here. So we didn't sustain a whole lot. We got by very easily. So we're very happy. But you always overplan and hope for nothing. So it pays off dividends when you do something like that. So.
Thank you, and
Thank you.
not just your team, but everybody that was involved in that. I know
yes.
there's a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of.
There's a lot of people involved.
Yeah.
You make, like I said, we had support services. They were planning out meals if they had to come in and work and had people working. It's a very big team thing.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
water side steps up, and they had a list of employees. So if we needed to back up people, we were ready to go.
Yeah, I
So,
saw where y'all put Charmista on notice that she
yep, was
needed
on-
to be
she was-
ready.
she-
So
we were going to send her up to a bird dog. So she didn't know yet. So.
Good evening, everyone. For AMI installs, electric, we are at 20,907, and for water, 14,218. Not a lot of installs the past month, just mainly due to weather. You don't want to turn someone's electric off when it's real cold, or change your water meter when it's real cold and have it freeze and bust. So they've been slow, but mainly due to weather. They should, pick back up here soon. The SEPA report for this evening begins on page 177 of your board package. For the month of November, our total SEPA bill was $82,285. Our net payment $115,615 for a profit to the plant board of $33,330, which brings us through November of 2024. Net benefit to the board of $1,083,667. So having a good year for SEPA. That puts us basically right on track with calendar year 2023. It looks like depending on what happens in December, we may have a little better year, but basically, right on track with previous years. Happy to answer any questions.
any questions for Travis? Thank you, sir.
Good, thanks.
Chairman, for the KYMEA, very busy, had a lot of meeting this month, and basically they go through the budget process, and at the same time, we had today the first meeting, the staff briefed the committee and the board about the next year's rate. Currently proposal is kind of staying the same.
Okay.
Except the transmission increase. If their KU transmission increase, they will pass that.
Okay.
Current budget is 3.5% on the transmission piece, but we wouldn't know it. As you know, the KU will let everyone know probably May, June,
Right.
some period of time. But KYMA probably going to pass through that cost if there's any increase come from. But I do want to KU transmission can be between 0 to 14%
Right.
anywhere, but we don't expect a really high because of last year increase. But we wouldn't know it. I don't think they would know that either until they done all the work by annually each year, that period of time. That's the information I know you're curious, want to know what a QME cost does increase a little bit, so their cash going to go down based on the forecast. But they choose to stay the same rate as currently proposed. But
Okay.
we will know in next 2-3 months for the final. If you have any question, I will happy to answer that.
Any questions for Gary?
Okay. So next, safety tab.
Good evening. The safety report begins on 181 and goes to 182. There's nothing to report, no vehicle accidents, no OSHA recordables, which is really good for this time of year because it's very easy to slip.
We're out there
up.
driving around and everything and didn't bust anything up?
Yeah, no,
Good.
no, so we're good on that
Good.
end. I was gonna mention in March, we're gonna have the CPR and first aid, and it's gonna be March 3rd through the 7th, and it's 2 classes a day. So if you all wanna come, just let me know which day. And
Oh, Steve and I'll be there, right, Steve?
I've lost all of my knowledge.
yeah, if you don't use it, what I
Fortunately,
say,
that's a good point. That's a good
Yeah.
thing, though, really, in some ways.
yeah, if you don't use it, you lose
Yeah,
it. So
right.
it's best to keep doing it, training.
Steve and I'll slip in our usual time on May 7th, last class.
No, not 7 a.m.
Yeah, about 7 a.m.
Yeah. But that's all I have for the safety report. Thank you.
Next is the water distribution person.
Good evening, board. In your board packet, covered on pages 183 to 185 is the water distribution report for December. First thing is we installed 4 new water services in December. We had 4 water main breaks, and of those 4 water main breaks, We had 3 of those were outages. We had to issue boil water due to the repair process. So pretty routine, nothing, you know, severe, nothing. Touching base of the cold weather we're currently experiencing. As of yesterday, we had 8 trouble calls on our day off. Call guys ran 8 trouble calls. Today, they ran about 25 trouble calls. So as that cold weather really sets in, it's starting to show some issues. Trouble calls yesterday, all 8 were customers' responsibility. We checked everything to meter vault. We were good, supplying water. Today, we've had a few more issues that, you know, there was vault lid wasn't on good, meter froze, couple meter bottoms, you know, once again, minor stuff, but all part of the repair process you have to do through the cold weather. Safety strategy we took the last 2-3 weeks, we've had 2 guys on trouble call, 1 for the extreme cold weather, 2 the snow and ice on the ground. That way, kind of slip, trip, fall, you got someone there, you can help if needed. And then the other part is if you're running a routine call, then you have an emergency call, busted pipe in the house. That person can go on, get that process started to shut the water off. Meter vaults are buried, so sometimes it's not as quick as a normal process. So those are just a few things we've done the last few weeks to try to take extra caution with being able to help. And then on one last note, I just wanted to share some news. I was hoping the board, y'all were aware, we did unexpectedly lose a water employee, Jeff Mulder, passed away December 30th unexpectedly. So department's been doing great with adjustments and everything and Jeff's passing, but Jeff was well liked, 22-year employee, so just making sure everyone was aware of his passing.
And then is it his brother or whatever that works for Georgetown Water?
Daryl. His brother,
yes.
Daryl, I think he's engineer or something with Georgetown, I do believe, yes. That's right. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
As far as anything water related, that's all I have. If y'all have any questions, I'll be glad to. All right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Next, water treatment plant. Brandon.
Good evening, everyone. For the month of December, the water treatment plant treated 230,044,000 gallons of water for an average of 7.42 million gallons a day. For the year, the water plant treated 2,993,663,000 gallons of water for a yearly average of 8.2 million gallons per day.
How does that compare to normally to like previous years or whatever? Is that
up? That's up from last year about couple 100,000. I think we averaged 7.96 or 98 last year. It is trending upwards because, you know, when COVID hit, we took a pretty good hit. So it's actually trending up very slightly. So it's barely going up and down, I guess. So Lock 4 averaged 6,613 cubic feet per second for a daily average of 4.2 billion gallons per day, and there was 6.1 inches of rain recorded this month, past month. So.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, sir. Gary, we got anything else, or? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, item 6.1. I kept looking at my agenda, so what's? Item 6.1, consider award of professional service agreement to AE Electrical Solutions, Arts Electric for PowerFlex 40 VFD replacement for $51,680.
Yes, we have 12 VFDs on our flocculators, and 3
You want
of
to tell
those.
everybody what a VFD?
I'm sorry, it's a variable frequency drive.
Okay.
You can set the speed of the mixer, and you can change the speed of it if we have to. We have 12 of them. 3 of them are not functioning correctly, and you can no longer get parts for those. So we had 2 options. We went with a Siemens instead of I can't remember what the other ones are, but
Alan Bradley.
Alan Bradley, yeah. I'm sitting there looking right at it. This project, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped. This project will consist of purchase of 12 new VFDs, removal of existing VFDs, engineering and design, installation of the new VFDs, and PLC programming. The project is included in the 24-25 budget on page 29, line 130 for $50,000. Staff will relocate reallocate funds from the other water treatment projects to address the overage. Arts, AE Solutions is basically Arts, you know, so they've done work for us in the past, and staff recommends awarding the professional services agreement to AE Solutions for $51,680.
And they're a local firm, and I think,
Yes.
David, this kind of really reaffirms what you talked about earlier, is continue to invest in infrastructure before it goes bad, so that we keep service up and not wait till everything's in a point where we're losing service, then running around trying to fix things, so.
Yes, sir, and also proactive rate adjustments as needed. The
Yeah.
board's been very good in being able to continue to make the hard decisions so that we don't have rate shock,
Yeah.
and we also don't have a national news story when we can't provide water.
Right. So, any questions for Brandon?
Was there a bid invitation?
There was not, we don't do bids, as far as I understand, we don't do bids with professional service contracts, is that correct?
We're not required to bid for professional services. So sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. How do we decide when? Because I thought I saw one,
Well, we
other one,
we
and
talked
there
with
was
Hans
bid.
about that.
From what I understand about legally, you don't have to bid a professional service, what Leanne said. As far as the procurement policy goes, my understanding is that if you've worked with that firm before, then you can use that same firm, presumably because you have knowledge of their work, and they work with Arts.
Arts has done SCADA work for us about 10 years ago. So.
I think one example like what Catherine's references, for example, like Charmista, when she was looking for firms to help us with some of the work, she put some bids out, they were professional, and put it out to get some proposals in different firms, so.
And then the other factor, when I was talking to Brandon about it was, and Brandon can correct me on the technical side, but this is kind of coordinating all those drives, making them talk to each other more or less. And so you kind of want somebody that's, very close by to be able to get where you want to be. So that's, a legitimate basis to award work.
And Art's big, they have a lot of resources and.
Yeah, that was a big thing when Vic and David were here, that they wanted us to have another integrator, a backup integrator, because we've really only used one. So this does allow us to have another integrator into our SCADA system. So that's a huge help, and, our integrator now is about 2 hours away, and Arts is just, right down the road. So it's a big help, or it would be a big help.
Yeah.
And it was just a little over the budget, and that's covered by some funding from the water treatment projects.
The roof projects that we have, some of that is going to be covered under warranty, so we shouldn't have to use all that money up.
Great.
So,
okay, thank you.
thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Brandon, this is just the install, does this include the cost of the?
Yes.
It includes everything?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
everything, yeah.
And I saw where there were two options given by Art. The Allen Bradley, which is a different model of what we had before. Why did, you think the lower cost, and that was significantly more expensive?
Yeah, we did go with the lower cost item. Arts likes these. Our integrator that we have likes the Allen Bradleys, and they like the Siemens, and they said they have absolutely zero trouble out of them, and it's a good product. So
good. Okay. We can only sell some surplus property too.
That's right. We got that.
I don't know
We
if
haven't
you want
spent that
those
surplus
things,
yet,
I
have
don't
we? Or at
Can't
least
get
not this
parts for
month. I
them
mean, do we have any other questions? If not, do we have a motion? Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion's approved. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Item 6.2, consider approval of RFP 2024-10, utility easement acquisition to HMB Professional Engineers LLC in the amount not to exceed $135,000. Mike, this is one y'all told us was coming, so.
Yeah, so I guess you guys are aware with the Franklin County Grant Project, we've got a lot of easements to get, and we've been doing that with current engineering staff and part-time easement procurement specialists. We've been having trouble keeping the two positions fully employed, so at this point we decided to reach out to get some external help and send out an RFP. 6 different firms, and got 2 responses, and we decided to go with HMB. So if you've got any questions.
I think you said the one person who was helping us resigned. And
That's
did we ever
correct.
even get
And
the
then
other
at the
second
same
one?
time, we hired someone else, so we were about to be fully staffed, and yeah.
And I think whenever we had the agenda meeting, Steve and I were on the call, we talked about just how important it is that these people are really good. I mean, because they're gonna be the face of the company, knocking on people's doors, asking for easements, explaining it, and, how they come across and that is really important. So, will HMB let you know who the people are? Will we have any information on who those people are before
Yes,
they
that
go
was
out?
part of the proposal that both firms sent was, and that was one thing we did like about HMB is they did say who is going to be working on the project, not just who's over the company, but the boots on the ground. And I do know one is a Frankfurt resident, and I think the other one may be Lexington or Frankfurt.
And they'll have credentials and IDs and
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah, we tried to do it with, FPB employees, but just couldn't keep the employment there.
When it's tough, because I mean, it's mainly a weekend evening job because you gotta catch people when they're home and
Yeah.
so. Any questions on Catherine?
Just a couple quick ones. So the other response that we did get, was that more expensive?
It was.
And, so we currently have one part-time,
Mhm.
and so we're gonna keep them. And then this is for 2 people?
So they have 4 employees that do the work, and they're going to start off with 2 of those employees that are more local to this area to work on this project. They're expected to complete 100 easements within 30 days. So they'll be working pretty fast-paced on it. And the plan is to have H&B really only work in the larger grant area, and the part-time employment's gonna work in the other areas, as well as, any trouble that, H&B may have, whether it be someone that's out of state. We can have that, part-time hourly employment kinda spend more focused time on that.
Okay, so we're not gonna try to fill the other part-time position?
No, honestly, I'd like to have as much of this wrapped up in the next 2 or 3 months. So if we were to hire someone tomorrow, they probably wouldn't start for at least 45 days, maybe. So.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Jason?
Do you mind just talking a little bit how the easement process works and just, it's a lot of them to get.
Yeah, so do you want to know how they're going to do it, or have we been doing it?
Just what the process is, or
Okay.
what you're asking for and what you're
Yeah.
given, or just the general.
Yeah, so with this project, we're attaching to the existing poles on people's property, and there's already an easement there with the existing, utility or electric provider. So really what we're doing is we're asking property owners permission for the Frankfurt Plant Board to cross their property and be on that same pole route. So we're not adding anything new, but just a wire going through there. So we sent out mailers to property owners with the easement and the language, and there's a exhibit that actually shows the poles on the property and what it would look like. We sent out 2 or 3 mailers to people trying to get responses in, and so we've had some people respond, but a lot of times when you actually go out, knock on the door and talk to them, explain what's going on, then they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
So these people that HMB is gonna contact, they've already gotten several contacts from us that what we're doing. So when they go to the door and ring the doorbell,
Yes.
they're gonna be able to reference that we sent you information, here's what's going on.
That's
And they
correct.
won't be coerced. They'll tell people, we'd like to do it, but it's voluntary. You don't have, we won't be making people think, we're not gonna, I don't wanna use the term, but we're not gonna be strong arming people.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
we've got a project to complete.
Right.
So, if we can't cross that person's property on the existing infrastructure, then that's where we'll have to find other means, whether it's,
Right.
Engage with neighboring property owners, use the existing, state right of way, things like that. So.
Sorry, just to follow up. Are these our poles or someone else's poles?
There'll be, Bluegrass Energy, Kentucky Utilities, and AT&T poles.
So they have existing easements.
That's correct.
This is just my ignorance here, but we can't go to them and let them give us permission?
No,
Okay,
we
that's
have,
what I'm
they give us permission to attach to their poles,
I gotcha.
but in that joint use agreement, it says that we have to obtain our own easements.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for clarifying.
So for the homeowner or the property owner, there really won't be any difference in what they see on those poles when we put our line on it. So it won't change the look of what they see.
That's
Pretty
correct.
much.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's something you really need to stress.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically just letting us on their property.
Yeah.
Is
For a
the
few- for-
biggest-
Usually, yeah,
For a
it's-
few moments, really, I mean, just a short period of time, I mean,
once construction's complete, you won't see it.
Yeah.
Unless, something bad were to happen, poles break or something like that.
you know, we're not building buildings or doing anything, we're just hooking a line and getting out of there.
That's correct,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of times when you talk to people, they'll be like, oh yeah, and it's sitting on the coffee table. It's pretty, well taken, I guess.
Any other questions? Hey, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Approved, thanks, sir. Next one is item 6.3, consider approving a master services agreement, professional engineering services. Ms. Dutta.
Hello. This is an item I've previously mentioned in the past. So in referring back to the last conversation you had about professional services. So in the past, anytime we required outside engineering services for a project, we would issue a statement of qualifications to select an engineering firm. And then primarily, alluding to what you were just discussing, we would base it on qualifications and then price was second. But if multiple firms were basically equally qualified, then we'd go back and look at the cost. So it was kind of secondary in nature. So, but that was always a process of doing a statement of qualifications, having to receive them, review them, select them, negotiate. So I sent out a request for statement of qualifications to multiple engineering firms so we could go ahead and get several firms pre-qualified in advance. So that way now when we have projects in the future, I can reach out to those qualified firms that I know are qualified to do a particular project, and then we can just work out a cost and schedule and go directly to go. We can just get everything will be more streamlined. So that's what's in your agreement. So in this case, I based it on 6 categories, which are listed: water treatment, distribution, storage, pumping, electrical, and environmental. And each firm submitted their statement of qualifications in each category, and some of them chose to be pre-qualified in all the categories, and most of them chose 5. Environmental seemed to be a big one that a lot of them chose not to submit for, but we do have 2 that are approved in environmental. So this master service agreement that's in your board package, that is the agreement that he developed for me. And if the board approves the language of it, then I'll reach out to these firms, send this master services agreement to them. Once they get it signed, I'll just kind of slowly bring them back to Mr.
So you will
Chuman.
bring those back. How
Yeah.
will that work then in terms of does the board then need to act on and approve each one individually, or how will that work?
I was hoping that once the language is approved, that as I receive them from the engineering firms, then I can just have them for your signature, and that it's already been pre-approved by the board. So that's kind of what I was hoping we could do.
And sure, Mr. Kirby, all you're doing is pre-qualification process here. There's no board funds being guaranteed to these folks. We don't have them essentially on retainer or anything. So when we do have a project comes up, this just eases you. You already know these people, you know the qualifications, you don't have to go through the process of the RFP again. Correct?
Absolutely. So just for example, one of the any project that we do will be already in the budget, so the board will be aware of it. In this case, the first project I'll be sending out for a cost and schedule for delivery is the capacity study. We're going to do the water treatment plant. So it's already going to be projects that the board's aware of, so it won't be anything new. If it's new, of course, I'll bring it to you ahead of time.
What we're basically doing is is giving you some additional staff resources to do some of this work.
Yeah, and these are projects that we would retain outside engineering services anyway.
Right.
Yeah, so absolutely. And one of the lines in the agreement says that this is not a commitment by owner to engineer to issue any statements of work. And I think I've had a lot of last minute changes today. I know you've seen a lot of emails from me today. So the one change that some of the firms requested was originally we had professional liability as a $5 million. We were going to require that as an insurance requirement. But talking with Hans further and some of the engineering firms, there's going to be some projects that are going to be less expensive. There's going to be some projects that are more expensive. So we're going to develop the professional liability insurance requirement per project. So that way, if it's higher than what their standard certificate of insurance has, then they'll add that fee, that additional cost into their fee proposal at that time. If it's less, then there won't be an additional cost. So that's why we made it as a project by project basis. So that was the only change that I'm
And
requesting.
if you select a firm for work, or an individual or a firm, then at that point, they'll provide documentation that they have their professional liability insurance in force and it's current, right?
Yes, they're gonna have to have some, it's always a question about how much do you want? And it depends on, you look at these topics, water treatment, water distribution, pumping stations. What happens if some design goes,
Mhm.
and then what you see in a lot of these types of agreements is the firm wants to limit their liability to what they pay, to what we paid them.
Mhm.
So you may have a $25,000, $50,000 fee, and then you might have $250,000 in issues that
Mhm.
arise from that. So that's what you're trying to balance out. So somebody to find a firm, they'll do the work, but you want the board to be protected. And in thinking about it, you're trying to come up with, we've had firms come back and they want changes to this language, changes to that language. For example, one clause in there is the ownership of the work product.
Mhm.
And we want the work
Right.
product, obviously, if we're paying for it. And some of the other firms, one firm was like, well, we want to change this or change that. I just want the agreement is favorable to the board, obviously.
Yeah, because if we don't own the work product, then we're locked into always having to go back to them if we have a question,
So-
because we don't have the document and the work papers anymore.
So it
Yeah.
may be that we, this is a framework that we come back and the board decide, maybe it's 5 million in liability, maybe the board wants 10 million in
Mhm.
some instances. So it might be you come back on a case-by-case basis to evaluate what everyone's comfortable with.
Okay. Any other questions for, because Sharmis, I know we've talked about this several meetings, so any other questions for her, or?
No, it's in order. I'd make a motion to approve the master services agreement.
Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, approved. Next, you got the next two, Ms. Dada?
I do.
Consider item 6.4, consider awarding work for directional drilling under Lee Branch in Midway to Buchanan Contracting, $39,000.
And I can talk about both projects
Yeah.
together, both agenda items together. So for the Midway water line extension from Wood Lake Road to Georgetown Road, which is past their sewer treatment plant, we're going to be crossing one driveway and one creek. So of course we want to directly drill under the creek, and we're in right of way for the driveway crossing, and the KYTC encroachment permit requires you to bore under any driveways in that case. So the project is going to be $195 a foot. So the creek will be about $39,000. The driveway cross will be about $19,500. And if you got my other last minute adjustment today, one of the concerns was when I had wrote out on page 1 under contract amount number 2, I had wrote the contract shall not exceed $39,000, but then I had contradicted myself and say, well, actually pay per foot. So I just changed the wording to the contract amount is estimated at $39,000, and we'll pay the actual foot at $195 a foot.
So what you just described was item 6.4, which is the drilling under Lee Branch was 39,
Mhm.
and 6.5, which was the drilling under the driveway, which was 19.5.
Yes. I just requested.
And Sharmista, again, these are costs that Midway is eventually going to reimburse us for, correct?
Yes.
Through their long-term partnership we've gone into them with.
Correct. Yep.
And on item 6.4, that one that the other response was more expensive.
Yes, this low quote was $195 a foot. The other quote was $275 a foot. And then we didn't get any other responses. We sent it, I think, to 5 or 6 people, and they're the only 2 that responded.
Have we worked with Buchanan before?
We have not, but Midway's engineer is the one that recommended them, and
Okay.
he has worked with them in the past, so
Okay.
he was comfortable. They find satisfactory work in the past. So.
Do you mind if I just ask, so a creek is pretty narrow, so 200 feet, and then no driveway, I assume it's narrow.
The creek, just because you have to start back so further to get kind of you do this parabola here to go underneath it, so that's why. And then when we're going to come back and we're going to exit out on the wastewater treatment plant, we have to kind of come in and kind of curve in around there, so that's what adds the length to that. And then as far as the driveway, it's a nice, actually brand new concrete driveway. So we basically, at 50 foot from center line of the driveway is where we came up with that 100 feet. But if there's any way we can shorten them, we absolutely will. But yeah, I agree with you too. It seems long, but when you think about where you have to start and to get underneath the creek, and you have to be at least, I think it's 5 feet under the creek bed. So by the time you do all that, it adds to the length.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
So you don't want to take a jackhammer to that new driveway?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, item 6.4, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item is approved. Item 6.5, do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved. Thank you. Next one is item 6.6. Consider approving public hearing notice to establish a prepay program revising section 2, subsection M in the FPB tariff. Ms. Rhodes?
Okay, so the prepaid program is going to build on several key advancements that FPB has implemented, including the nearly completed AMI project, installation of a new phone system, transition to a new payment vendor, addition of payment kiosks, and the launch of the mobile app. And so we want to use those tools and technologies to provide the foundation for offering customers a flexible and innovative way to manage their accounts. So a lot of the benefits of the prepaid program is that it eliminates traditional barriers to signing up for service like deposits, late fees, and reconnect fees, and also empowers customers to take control of their usage while allowing them to control their budgets a little bit better. Instead of accumulating large monthly bills, customers have the opportunity to pay in advance for services with daily notifications based on actual usage. And this approach will help customers manage their finances more effectively and alleviate the stress of large utility bills, which hopefully will reduce the risk of service interruptions. The program is voluntary and available to residential customers who meet eligibility requirements. And those requirements are going to be they have to have an AMI electric meter. If they are a water customer, they would also have to have an AMI water meter as well. They can't have active payment arrangements, be on automatic draft, or be a net metering customer. And they have to obviously agree to the prepay service agreement. And then we also, for current customers, have provided a mechanism for them to be able to participate with a 70-30 payment split. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I talk about benefits for existing customers. So benefits for new customers, again, is eliminating that deposit. It eliminates late fees because obviously you're prepaying, so there wouldn't be any late fees or reconnect fees. It provides real-time communication through the portal, so we would be sending daily notifications to the customers of what their usage is on the electric and the water both, should they have both of those services. Again, it's going to help them avoid large bills by breaking those costs into manageable daily amounts. Which should make clear to the customer the link between their usage and what they're spending. So that would give them obviously the opportunity to be like, okay, maybe I need to take a shorter shower. To me, it would become like a game to play. Like, oh, okay, well, everybody in the house needs to take a 2-minute shower instead of 5-minute shower, those kind of things. And then also empower customers to budget more effectively, conserve energy and water, and lower their overall bills. Of course, all of those benefits for a brand new customer are also going to be benefits for existing customers, but existing customers will also have their deposit. So any customer who has a current deposit now, we would apply that in the interest as a credit to be able to start the prepay program, which is going to allow them to ease into the enrollment. So if they have a balance, hopefully it would take care of that balance and then start in on the prepay. Reduce the minimum payment required to reconnect services. So currently when a their service is disconnected, they're paying, their past due balance is 30 days. If they're just 3 days into prepay, that is going to allow them to pay less at that time. So it should help the customers in that way. And then, of course, the customers with past due balance, they can participate by enrolling in the 70-30 split. So any payment that they make, 70% of it would go towards the prepay, and then 30% would go towards the arrears. And that would allow those customers who are have past due balances who struggle to get their bill caught up to still be able to participate in the program and get caught up and stay in the program. Because those are the customers that are really going to need, some of them are going to really need this to be able to look back and say, this is my usage, and to try to bring their bills down. So the budgeting and those kind of things are going to be really beneficial to those customers. And then, of course, for FPB, it will allow us to minimize our bad debt and our deposit liability, because all of the deposits that we currently have, you know, we do have to pay interest on those. And so we could take some of those off of our books and turn those into a mechanism for them to go on prepay.
So let's just pick an example, either a brand new customer or an existing, either one you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Walk through a customer and just how it would work.
Okay, so we'll take a existing customer. So they would sign up for the prepay. If they had a deposit, we would again go ahead and refund that deposit to the account, which would then put a credit on the account. If the customer again if that didn't take, what we're hoping is that will take care of any of their past due balance, and then they'll have, you know, an amount and the amount's going to differ depending on what services they have, what it's going to take to start that prepay account, because a customer who has just electric is going to be different than a customer who has all of our services.
So say I prepay, say my amount I'm starting with is $400 or $350. So $350, I'm starting out with $350 day one. So then what happens?
So as they use their utilities or their cable or whatever each day, there's an amount that it'll take off on that credit. So and when they get to and every day they'll get a message, whether it's in their portal or, you know, an email or text message. It could be on the app if they're signed up for the app. They'll get a notification each day what that usage looks like, what those numbers looks like as far as the amount. And so they'll be able to keep up with it and track it. And when they see that balance getting low, they can go ahead and, you know,
so then what,
pay towards it.
Like in the example, I've got $350 in my account.
Mm-hmm.
Got 10 days left in the billing period, or before I normally would replenish my account, and I'm at $325. I got $25 left, and I got 8 days to go. My options are put more money in,
Mm-hmm.
or if I call and say I don't have anything else, I don't have a single penny, I can't get any more, I don't get paid for another 7 days. What happens?
So in that instance, we probably need to have a different conversation with the customer, because once they're on prepay, because we no longer have that deposit,
right?
We can't. They would be subject to a disconnect once
right.
Once they're out of funds, and we won't continue payment arrangements on the prepay. Now, if it's a situation where, you know, they know that they're not going to be able to make a payment for some time, we may have to at that point take them off of prepay and put them back on a post-pay account. But at that point, they would be subject to the deposit. And so that's the benefit for the customer, is you don't have that deposit on file, and you can replenish it a little bit at a time, or if you want to pay it monthly, you could still pay monthly, but it gives them a mechanism to have control over that.
So if you get paid every 2 weeks, you can put money in every 2 weeks or whatever.
Correct.
And when someone comes in and they're interested in this, you'll explain all this to them so they know what's going to happen and how it's going to work.
Yes, and they will also, of course, they'll sign the contract, and that's all included in the contract as well.
How big of a, I mean, if they got paid a lump sum every month, could they put in $1,000, like a few months in advance? They could put in as much as they wanted?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's cool.
I mean, we have customers now that they're not necessarily on budget, but they budget themselves, and so they'll pay a certain amount every month, and they'll end up with a credit, and then they won't pay it in the wintertime, or they won't pay it for a few months in the springtime. So it won't hurt for them to have a credit on there.
So outside of maybe aligning more with people's monthly budgets or quarterly budgets or however, it also gives them the benefit, as you were saying, to feel like they're more in control of their utilities, and they can use less if they're feeling like they were using more that month than they want to.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I said, like, for me, it would become a game. In my household, it would be like, okay, you're taking a shower. We're all going to take 2-minute showers today and see how that changes. Because I have teenagers at home, and they like to take 30-minute showers. So.
When I think you and Gary explained last time, they're not being surprised this way, in a sense, because once we read the meter and then you get your bill, then you're already a week or 10 days into the next billing.
Correct.
And if all of a sudden you get hit with a big one, like some people are going to this month because of the temperature,
yeah,
then if you're saying, I can't pay that, and then you're saying, when you're already 10 days into the next billing and it's still cold outside, and so now they'll know this is where this is headed, and whether it's borrowing or doing whatever, but they won't get that big surprise when that bill pops up either in the mail or online, saying, I had no idea I'd spent this much.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes. So like this would be a perfect week as far as the electric utility.
Right.
People might decide to turn their furnace down a few degrees, or at least turn it down maybe while they're sleeping or while they're not in the house, so that they can see that difference from day to day. So it definitely gives them more control. I mean, because like you said, when you're looking at a 30-day overview, it's kind of hard to pinpoint. A lot of time in the spring we see people's water usage go up, and then once we start asking questions, it's like, oh, well, I watered my lawn, so yeah, okay, maybe I did use that water. Because we get a lot of those calls of, I didn't use that much, and then once you start having the conversation, it's like, oh, well, yeah, it was, it was hot, and I watered my lawn. So it just gives them more control over their daily expenditures and makes them more aware of it. And that's going to be really beneficial for all of our customers, but especially for those customers who do struggle with their bills, which is why we wanted to do the 70-30 split as a way for them to still be able to participate.
Sure.
'Cause
And this is basically, so what are we talking about doing? Probably having the public hearing hands at the next regular meeting, or what? Or a special meeting for the public hearing, or just do it at the next regular?
the next regular.
Next, I think next month's gonna be a.
It is a special, I think, because we moved
So
the
we can
date.
put that on
We
there.
can put it on.
We can
Yeah.
put it on there, you can still put it on there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, what I really say is this is hopefully this can be something improve the relationship between us and our customer. Just like you all mentioned that the freedom, they have a control. They have a daily billing. It's not a month anymore. Basically, you have a text message or email every day. You pretty much have a new bill, and you have a completely control how much you want to put in, how do you conserve your energy. So what I was in Paducah, what I find out is two group customer really enjoy this after first year. One is a young professional. I didn't expect that, but that's what happened. They really like it because the app or the daily message, they can know exactly what happened in their bill. The second group is the group who really have a difficulty control, even pay the current bill. But on the top, we have a late fee, we have a reconnect fee. This is really, hopefully, this can significantly reduce that part of burden for the customer.
And if we didn't have the AMI, none of this would be possible.
None of them.
Right.
After we spend the $9 million, that's the infrastructure. It's not necessary that our IT, our customer service, finance, all spend so much time prepare this, because we cannot just talk about it, except we have to make sure everything going to work from day one. That's very important to us. And but on the top, I really hope, fundamentally, we have to explain to the customer it's exactly the same rate. It's not like there's a hiding things.
Right.
The same per kilowatt hour, the same per gallon cost to every customer in this program. But the only difference is they can have a control. They can decide, I'm going to pay my bill every day, every week, every quarter. Is really completely on their control.
Right.
I certainly hope this is, in the beginning, maybe it's not, but I hope at the end of the day, everyone's going to like this. That's what I really hope. It's a volunteer. Nobody have to,
Right.
but I think it's a great tool in toolbox after EMI, after the $9 million we spent it. I really hope all customers can benefit from it.
Steve, did you?
No, I was just going to say, I'm for anything that helps. I told you that the other day. But I think this is really an excellent strategy or method to get people to get in tune with the bill on the AMI stuff. Because if they all start to do that, everybody starts to become more efficient with their usage and do just like you said, take too many bags. But no, but I do really think that's what it's gonna. And I don't want to use the word train, but you know what I mean. It's going to condition people to be more aware of what their utility usage is. So.
Well, and I think there's another element too, which is when you go to buy a new water heater, You start to pay attention and you start to go, oh, okay, now I understand that this adds up. So it's really cool. Thank you.
So this vote we're taking is just to schedule the public hearing for February. For the February meeting, so take public comment, and then we'll have a vote after that for the final approval. So the vote is, do we have a motion to schedule the public hearing for the February board meeting?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? April, thank you, and
Thank you.
David, and everybody for all the work y'all have done on this.
Definitely a group effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Item 6.7, John, this is it, buddy. Consider FanDuel Sports Ohio Amendment. And this does not affect MeTV, right, Harvey?
No, sir.
Bonanza, Hogan T. Rose.
We know better than to have anything that would affect me too.
As Yogi Berra, it's deja vu all over again, right? Staff and the Cable Advisory Committee recommend that the board approve a direct agreement with Diamond Sportsnet for FanDuel Sports Ohio. This amendment has a term that ends April 30th of next year, 2026. Diamond Sports recently announced they have reached an agreement with the Cincinnati Reds to broadcast their games during the 2025 baseball season. You'll recall when staff brought this agreement to you in December, they did not have the rights to broadcast those games, and the Reds themselves had come out and announced that they intended to distribute the games themselves. But something changed between then and now, and Diamond Sports has the rights for 2025. In the case that Diamond Sports fails to acquire the rights for 2026, there are provisions for rate reductions that will begin on January 1st of 2026. This amendment doesn't impose any launch or repositioning requirements. Staff attorney has reviewed it and meets with its approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and I appreciate your patience as we've had to work through this process.
Mr. Snyder?
To say that I'm surprised is an understatement. I'm really surprised that they were able to claw these back.
I went back and watched the Cable Advisory Committee meeting, and I said it was a 10% chance that they would get it. And maybe that was a little high, but I guess it was low.
Well, maybe the Reds looked around and said, it's a heavy lift to produce these games.
Yeah, devil you know versus the devil you don't.
The only question I had, the only comment I had is we have now signed up with them through April 30th of next year.
Correct.
Next year. So when next year rolls around, if they do lose them, I'm thinking of that first month of April when we're still carrying them.
Right.
I know we gave up, was it NBC Sports was on 38? So
yes.
we do have a blank spot on the channel for that 1 month if we need it, correct?
Yeah, I would need to defer to Dave Brown and Adam on how those puzzle pieces fit together. Right. But yeah, there could be a situation in April of next year where we have this channel and another channel carrying the Reds.
If that's the case, and 36 has been the channel 36.
I think the Reds would stay on 36 regardless.
Yeah, right.
In my
That's what I'm saying.
opinion.
So okay, all right.
Yeah.
Would Diamond allow us to do that under this agreement, you think?
I think if we're in the final month of this agreement and they don't have the rights to the Reds, I think we would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the only question I had. But I'm very pleased, and you think after we approve this, we'll be able to start it up fairly quickly?
My fingers are, again, I don't want to speak for other folks, but I know I've spoken to those guys at the head end, and I think they'll be able to get it going pretty soon.
Okay, great. Certainly about 1st February.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. In that case, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the. Any questions first, but approve the FanDuel Sports Agreement for another 13 months.
Here we have a motion. Do we have any other questions of the deal? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's approved.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Gary, do you have any? Okay, under new business, I guess it was Friday, Jason, or Saturday. Jason called me and ran into a state official in the Energy Cabinet who made him aware that there are 2 potential grant opportunities. One that would involve providing funding for residents to purchase the solar shares, and the second, which would actually provide a significant amount of funding for upgrades to people's homes, whether it be insulation or appliances or a number of things. And there's a lot of information. There apparently is funding available, federal funds. And I talked to Gary recently, and I think I sent you all a memo out. And if the board would agree, and Hans, I don't know if we need a formal motion or whatever, but to ask you and David and perhaps Jason and Catherine to meet with the state officials, look at the grant application, see what's required, what the requirements, what the opportunities are, and then if there is an opportunity to apply, either in February or to call a special meeting to approve us pursuing it. I mean, I think from Jason, I think you can talk on from what we understand, there is money there. It's a good opportunity. We have a good chance of getting it. And we just need to understand it before we could beat it to death here for a couple of hours, which would be a lot of fun. But it might be more efficient to let the four of you all look at it, talk with the state officials, get the information, come back and say, this is good, this works, here's what it looks like. So, Jason, do you want to add anything, or is that?
No, I mean, I just talked, I was just checking in with the state to see what they had going on right now, and this infrastructure money had finally made it down to the state level and been allocated for specific programs. And they seem very interested in working with us specifically because we're here in their backyard. I think they use the word guinea pig, so I'm always happy to be a guinea pig.
Yeah, they're just a couple hundred yards up the road here. I mean, it's...
Yeah, especially if we can move on it kind of fast.
Yeah.
But it definitely was focused on allowing low-income residents to be able to purchase shares of a utility that offers community solar. So we've already got that in place. It would be a nonprofit helping purchase those shares that we already set up as part of our regs.
And we might need to work with Bluegrass Community Action to help us with the eligibility thing, if that's what the grant requires and we understand, yeah.
And then we would they would donate that directly to a resident who then would be able to use that share to defer their bill. So that's great. We have a number of census tracts where we have a lot of people. And then the other one would be, they've got this great program where selected vendors, qualified vendors, can come in and do a whole house kind of renovation of insulation.
And we wouldn't have to pick the vendors, they'd be pre-selected by...
Pre-selected, and they come in, they do the work. I think it's up to like $24,000 a house. So that would include appliances and insulation. Don't quote me on that, but it's quite a lot. But you have to meet these certain criteria. But it would allow our residents who are having trouble paying their bills, maybe come in, reduce the overall cost of their usage by becoming more efficient, and then be able to... So this is a great opportunity for our... And
I appreciate, Jason, your work. I mean, taking the time, talking with the state people and seeing what's available. Hans, do we need a formal motion, or can the four of y'all just work on it, and then if we got something, Jason, Catherine say we're ready to meet, and then we call it, or what do we need to do?
I think it's the board's preference. It sounds like something definitely worth investigating. So you can make a motion, or staff has the understanding to go and go
and Jason and Catherine can represent to the cabinet people that the board is aware of it, they're interested, and if we put together something, then the board's interested in taking a look at it.
It may take more formal action once you get the application together.
Yeah.
But I think just with the understanding, we'll take a look. That works fine too.
So is that okay with everybody?
Mr. Chairman, might suggest you want to include Travis as the group.
I don't want Travis involved. That's great. No, you definitely,
Okay, well, we'll check it out. I've just
go forth and do good, buddy. Okay. Thank you, and thanks for your hard work on it. Really,
well, not hard work yet. Just a phone call, but we'll see.
Mr. Snyder, item 9. Hold it. What?
We've got this.
Okay.
This Farmdale thing.
Oh.
One more. Yeah, should have it when
We sure do.
So this is a mix of new and old business, actually. So we have our assistance agreement with Farmdale, and one of the items is to assist with their meter installation services. So we've been providing some materials, like kind of just random pieces that they need for reimbursement. But since this is a bigger agreement, it's going to be it's the smart points to be the meter reading. So this totals about almost $89,000. So Hans prepared this agreement for signatures, so we kind of have everything formalized as far as the purchase of the materials. So you can see their farm board chairman has already signed the agreement, and this is just bring it to the board for approval for our board to sign.
And we need
as
to take
well.
action on this.
Yes, please.
With the formal action.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for us, Mr.? I mean, we've talked about working with Farmdale and helping them, and so this is just kind of part of that whole process and thing we put forward. So
yes.
Does everybody okay with this, or
yes?
So if not, do we have a motion?
Fully reimbursable by Farmdale.
Right.
So Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion we approve the purchase agreement with Farmdale as described here in the meeting.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Charmista, again,
Thanks.
good work, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now, Mr. Snyder?
Before I go to the closed session, next month, we're gonna meet off our regular date, correct?
Right, and we're meeting on,
February 20th, which is a Thursday, just so everybody knows.
yeah.
Okay, right here at 5 o'clock.
And so if anybody's got any items, we'll have the regular agenda. And I don't know what board members on with that, but we'll have the regular agenda, but if you have something,
We need to get it on the
you need to
agenda.
get it on the agenda.
Right.
And put it on there, and if for whatever reason we couldn't, you're not ready for it, then we could just skip over it, but if we don't have it on there, we can't deal with it. So if you've got a thought that you might wanna talk about something, then, just let Kathy know and we'll put it on there, and then, like I said, if we get to it and you say, I'm not ready to go this time, we just wait till March. But at least we'll have it on there, so you got that option, so.
In that case, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to call the board into closed session pursuant to carry 61-810-1C to discuss pending or proposed litigation regarding a contract matter, an insurance matter, and a declaratory judgment matter regarding property, as well as 61-810-1B for deliberation on the future acquisition of a specific piece of real property, since publicly discussing it would affect its value, and 61-810-1N to select a successful bidder for the award of a local contract.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're going into closed session, and we're gonna do it upstairs because we have a 1 minute. We're out. I need a motion to come out of closed session.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second to come out of closed session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're out of closed session. Mr. Snyder?
Mr. Chairman, no board action needed to be taken from items in the closed session.
With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second to adjourn?
Second.
We have a motion second to adjourn. Everybody in favor of going home, say aye.
Aye.
Those who want to stay all night, say no. We're going home. Thank you all. We're adjourned.